Good day, everyone. Welcome to lecture number 19 of Theory of Computation. And in this particular lecture, we will be discussing about the context-free grammars. Okay. So in our last lecture, we have already discussed what are the different types of grammars. And one type of grammar was a context-free grammar, which is also called type 2 grammar. Okay. And what was the feature of this particular grammar? The feature of this context-free grammar was that the production rules were of this kind, okay, such that this alpha can be only one non-terminal. And this beta can be any string belonging to V plus T star, where V is non-terminal set and T is a terminal set. Okay, so this was the definition of context-free grammars. Fine. Now we can formally define context-free grammar. We can say a G is a context-free grammar which has four parts: V, T, S, and T, where V is the set of non-terminals, okay. T is the set of terminal symbols, and we know that all strings generated by our grammar belong to T star, meaning that all the strings will contain only those symbols which are of this T. So this T is also called as sigma, or we can write all strings belong to sigma star. Okay, so this is the alphabet set. Fine. S is a non-terminal, spatial non-terminal. It is a non-terminal symbol. And all strings are derived starting from S. Okay. And P are the set of production rules. Okay, and these are the rules that are used to derive the strings. And we use these production rules to derive the strings generated by a grammar. And the feature of these production rules is that they are of this type. Alpha gives beta, where alpha is a non-terminal, a single non-terminal is a non-terminal, and beta belongs to V plus T star. Okay, so this is the definition of a context-free grammar. And using the production rules, we can derive strings from the grammar. Let's suppose we have to derive strings, then we will write S. Okay, S is the start. Then we will use production rule. We will derive something. Let's suppose alpha dash. We will use another production rule of your choice to derive alpha double dash, dash dash dash. Finally, we will derive W, where W belongs to T star. So this will be a string generated by this grammar. Let's suppose it is W1. Likewise, we can derive another string from starting from S. Let's suppose we have derived W. This is another string. Okay. And we can write instead of writing these production rules, we can directly write S derives W1 using one or more production rules. Likewise, we can write S derives W2 in one or more production rules. And all strings generated by a grammar. What is the set of all strings generated by a grammar? All strings generated by a grammar form the language of that grammar. Okay, fine. So let me rewrite it here. So language of a grammar. So it is written like this. Language of a grammar is the set of all strings that can be generated from S using production rules of G. So all the strings that can be generated from the starting symbol using production rules of this G, it forms the language generated by this grammar. Or in other words, it can be written like this. L of G contains strings W belonging to T star. Okay, so that means it contains strings of this non-terminal of terminals, okay, such that S can derive this string W in one or more steps using the production rules. So we can write it like this, or we can write it like this. Okay, so this is the definition of a context-free grammar and the language generated by a grammar. Fine. Now let me give an example here. Let me write an example. Fine. So let's take a simple example. For example, if you have a grammar like this, S gives A, fine, and A gives A, and A gives epsilon. So if you have this grammar, and the question is, what is the language? So let's suppose this is grammar G. So this G has V as non-terminals are S and A, and terminal symbols are A. Okay. So if you have given, and these are the production rules, and S is the starting symbol. So the question is, what is the language generated by this grammar? Okay, and let's write the solution here. So you can see that we have to start from S. So S can derive, what it can derive? A. Okay, so this is using production rule 1. So R1, rule 1. Now A can be written, there are two rules. So this is rule 2, this is rule 3, and this is rule 1. So you can use rule 2 or rule 3. It is your choice. Let's suppose you are using rule 3. If we are using rule 3, then A can be written as epsilon. So that means the first string that we generated is epsilon. Now let's see if we can generate some more strings. R1 gives A. Now let's suppose we are using rule R2. So that means instead of A, I can write AA. Now let's say I am using rule 3. So A will be replaced by epsilon. It will be A dot epsilon. That will be A. Okay. So the second string that is generated is A. Likewise, I can do derive as A. Now A can be written as using rule 2, AA. Okay. Now again, I can use rule 2. It is A. Instead of capital A, I have to write AA. Okay. Now if I use rule 3, so it will generate A. Likewise, I can generate A, dash, dash, dash. You can see the pattern. So here this A. So from S, we are generating A. Okay, we are generating this A. And this A can generate two things. One is it can generate epsilon and it can generate AA. So you can see that here A can be written as AA. So you can see that it is kind of a recursive call. Recursive call. Recursive call means, or we can say recursive rule. Recursive rule means that whatever is on the right hand side, non-terminal on the right hand side, left hand side, the same non-terminal exists on the left hand side as well. So what is a recursive rule? Recursive rule means that non-terminal on left hand side appears on right hand side as well. Okay, so this is a recursive rule, and we can apply this recursive rule repeatedly. And what is this recursive rule generating? It is generating A. So one A and this A. So that means now this another A, this can again generate A and A. Okay. Likewise, it can generate A. It can generate A. Okay. So that means these two rules, you can see that these two rules are generating A star. A star means one or more A's. Okay. So if you have to generate one or more A's repeatedly, then you should use these kind of rules. Okay. So you can see that this grammar, this particular grammar is generating either epsilon or a dash 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 like this. So we can see the language generated by this grammar is G is equal to W belongs to A star. Okay, so it is generating strings which belong to A star. So that means it is generating these symbols epsilon a dash dash. Okay, so this is the language generated by a grammar. This particular is a language generated by a grammar. Okay. So one type of questions that are discussed is that you are given a grammar, and from that grammar you have to derive a language. Okay, that is one scenario. The other scenario is that you are given a language, so the language is given, you have to derive a grammar, context free grammar. So this one is relatively easy. And this one is a little bit complex. Okay, so let's discuss one example for the second scenario. Okay, so let's discuss one example here. So let's say, so you are given, the example is, you are given a language, L is equal to W belongs to sigma star such that W is a palindrome. And you have to remember sigma is equal to A, comma. Okay. So let's write the solution. So you are given this language, derive context-free grammar of this language. Okay. So you have to derive a context-free grammar that will generate this language. So whenever you are given like this, okay, so you have to use a recursive approach. Recursive, or we can say inductive approach, not recursive, inductive approach. So in the inductive approach, you have to first find the base cases. So using A and B, what are the basic palindrome strings that you can generate? One is epsilon. Epsilon is one string because it is also a palindrome. A is a string. It is also a palindrome because it is same in the reverse order as well. B is also a palindrome. Okay. Now we have these three as palindromes. So this is the base cases, palindromes. Okay. Now inductive step. So this is the base step. Inductive step is, or we can say the assumption step is, let's say S is a palindrome, or let's remove it. Let's say W, or we can say alpha. Alpha is a palindrome. Okay. So that means if alpha is a palindrome, then A alpha A is also a palindrome, and B alpha B is also a palindrome. Okay. So what we are doing here, we are first creating a base case. So this is the base case. Then we are assuming that alpha is a palindrome. Alpha can be a string belonging to V plus T star. Okay. So that means this alpha may contain terminals as well as non-terminals. Now, if alpha is a palindrome, then I can combine, let's see how I can combine alpha in the base cases. So that means alpha can be combined with the base cases. For example, the base case was this. One base case was epsilon. So with epsilon, this alpha can be combined in these two manners. So these are the only two manners by which it will generate palindromes. So it is same as alpha. Okay. So let's not consider epsilon. Now let's consider A. So how can we combine alpha with A to generate palindromes? One is A alpha A. So this is the only method by which we can combine alpha with A to generate palindromes. Likewise, how we can combine alpha with B to generate palindromes? So this is the only method to combine alpha with B to generate palindromes. Okay. So let me rub these things here. So what I am saying, what is the method? The method is that you have to first declare the base cases, then assume that alpha is a palindrome, then see what are the ways by which I can combine this alpha with the base cases to generate the palindrome. Then comes the production rules. The production rules will be like this. So S gives A. Okay. Now S gives A. So from S we have to generate what we have to generate palindromes. So this should be a palindrome. This A should be a palindrome. And we know that A is a palindrome. I should generate these base cases from A. So these are the base cases. And these induction cases, this one and this one. So that means I should be able to generate A, and we know that this is palindrome. A is a palindrome. So instead of alpha, we have to write A here. So I can write A, and A gives us, what is the another induction rule? B, A. So these are the production rules that can generate our palindromes. So what is the grammar? The grammar is, it has V is equal to, so what are the non-terminals? A and S. What is the terminal set, or we can say alphabet set? It is A comma B. Okay, starting symbol is S. And what are the production rulers? The production rulers are these. Okay, so what is the general rule? The general rule is, so what is the rule? So the first is derive base cases, then do an assumption for alpha, then third, combine alpha with base cases in all possible manners. And then fourth is generate production rules. So these are the general rules that are used to derive a context-free grammar for a language. And here we have one important point. So you can see that we have generated this grammar. We have created this grammar. And what is the language generated by this grammar? The language generated by this grammar is L. So what is L here? L is a language that contains palindrome strings. And we know the language for which there exists a context-free grammar, that language is called a context-free language. So this L is a context-free language. And we have also discussed in regular language that this L is not a regular language. Okay, so we have discussed one language here. The language is that particular language is context-free language, but it is not a regular language. Okay, so we have derived one important point. All context-free languages are not a regular language. So this thing we have derived here. All context-free languages are not regular languages. And we have shown here by counter example. We have taken one language and that language is context-free language, but it is not regular. We will also prove it is reverse. What is the reverse? All regular languages are context-free languages. We will prove that all regular languages are context-free languages. That means regular languages is a subset of context-free languages. Okay, before proving that, I will give you some of the examples that you will take as a homework, and then we will come to that discussion how to prove that all regular languages are context-free languages. So let me give some examples as a homework. So let's say example 1. Okay, so the example 1 is that what is the language generated by following grammars. So what is the language generated by following grammars? G1. So I will only write production rules. S gives epsilon. Okay. S gives A S B. Okay, so this is grammar 1. Grammar 2. So the second grammar is S1 gives S1. Okay, second rule is S1 gives epsilon, S gives A, S, B, and S gives A. So here S1 is start symbol, and here S is start symbol. So this is grammar 2. Grammar 3, S gives A, S, A, S gives B, S, B, S gives C, where non-terminals are A, comma, B, comma, C, and S is the start symbol. So for these three grammars, you have to generate the language generated by these three grammars. So this is example 1. Now let's come to example 2. So example 2 is derive grammars, context-free grammars. Okay, context-free grammars for the following languages. So you have to derive the context-free grammar. Okay, so the first part is L is equal to W belongs to such that, so it is opening brace and closing brace, such that W has balanced braces. Okay, balanced braces means, for example, so this is balanced. Okay, so this is unbalanced, this is balanced, this is unbalanced. So you have to derive a grammar such that W has balanced braces. Second is L is equal to W belongs to A, comma, B star such that W has same number of A's and B's. Okay. Third is L is equal to W belongs to A, comma, B, comma, C star such that W is of the form A raised power n, B raised power n, C raised power n, where n is greater than or equal to 0 and m is greater than 0. So that means A and B should be same. Okay, number of A's and number of B's should be same. Fourth is L is equal to W belongs to 0, 1 star such that W starts with 0 and ends with 1. Okay, so these are the examples that you should try out on your own, and by trying these examples you will be able to understand how to derive languages from grammars and how to derive grammars for languages. Okay, so this was about the context-free grammars and how we can derive grammars and how we can derive the language. So let's now move forward. Let's first see how we can say that all regular languages are context-free languages. Okay, so let me rub this and let's start that discussion. So what I am saying that here, my claim is that all regular languages are context-free languages, but the reverse is not true. But the reverse is not true. Okay. So what does that mean? That by this particular statement, we are saying that if this is a set of context-free languages, then regular language is a subset of this context-free language. So the first thing that we have to prove that there is some language. So to prove this statement, we have to prove two statements. First is we have to prove all context-free languages are not regular. And the second that we have to prove is that all regular languages are context-free languages. So the first statement, this all context-free languages are not regular, this can be proved by the technique called counterexample. What does that mean, counterexample? We will take a language and that language will be context-free but not regular. So that will prove our this particular statement. So we will take a language. So L, let's suppose the language of palindromes. And we know that this language of palindromes is context-free language, but not regular. So this part we have already completed. So this proof is done. All context-free are not regular. So apart from L, we have another language. For example, L is equal to A raised power N, B raised power N. So we have proved by pumping lemma that this is not regular. And in the assignment that I have given you, previous examples, you can see that there is one grammar that generates this language. So this language is context-free language, but it is not regular. Okay. So the first part is done by the technique called a counter example. Now let's come to the second part. How we can prove all regular languages are context-free languages. We know a regular language is a language for which there exists a regular expression, or we can say for which there exists a regular grammar. And what is a regular grammar? We know a regular grammar is a grammar that has these production rules. Alpha gives A, alpha gives beta, where alpha is a non-terminal, and beta belongs to V plus T star, but beta can be only VT slash T or TV slash T. Okay, so this we have already discussed. And we know that this type of production rule is by default a production rule of context-free grammar. Okay, so we can say that every regular grammar is a context-free grammar. So that means every regular language is a context-free language. Why? Because every regular grammar is a context-free grammar. So that means every language generated by regular grammar will also be generated by a context-free grammar. So that will prove that all regular languages are context-free languages. So how we have proved this second statement? We said that all regular languages can be generated by regular grammars, and all regular grammars are context-free grammars. So a language generated by a regular grammar will also be generated by a context-free grammar. So that means every language that is a regular language is also a context-free language. Okay, so this is one method. The second method is using a regular expression. Now, for every regular language, there exists a regular expression, and we can derive a context-free grammar from a regular expression. If we have a regular expression, we can easily generate the context-free grammar, or we can say we can have the context-free rules for regular expressions. So since every regular expression can be converted to a context-free grammar, so that means every language that can be represented by a regular expression can be generated by a context-free grammar. So that means every regular language is a context-free language. So let me give an example here how we can generate a regular expression using a context-free grammar. So let's suppose you have to generate this type of regular expression, A star. So A star represents which language? This language. And this is a regular language. Okay. Now from this A star, I know I need a rule that will generate 0 or more A's. And we know that we can generate more A's by using this production. A gives small a and A. So this A is generating one A and is repeating itself. Repeating itself means that it can generate more A's. And I can write another production A gives epsilon. So using these productions, I can generate A star. Okay, fine. Now let's suppose if I have two regular expressions, regular expression 1 dot regular expression 2. Let's suppose regular expression 1 is generated by this symbol A1 and regular expression 2 is generated by A2. Then I can generate the strings represented by R1 dot R2 by using this kind of production rule, A1 dot A2. So A1 generates R1 and A2 will generate R2. Now let's suppose if I have to generate R1 union R2. Okay, let's suppose R1 is generated by A1 and R2 is generated by A2. Then I can generate R1 union R2 by having S gives A1, S gives A2. So A1 generates R1 and A2 generates R2. So using S, we can generate R1 and R2. So that means we can generate R1 union R2. Fine. Or these two rules can be simply written as S gives A1 slash A2. So what does that mean? It means that this is a shorthand notation. Shorthand notation for writing two rules that are derived from the same symbol. So you can see that every regular expression can be, we can have a context-free rule for a regular expression. So that means for every regular expression, we can have a context-free grammars, and that will imply that all regular languages are context-free languages. So we have proved that all regular languages are context-free languages, but reverse is not true. Okay, so that means, so this implies that context-free grammars, or we can say context-free language, context-free grammars are stronger, or we can say have higher power or extra power, higher power than finite automatas, or we can say regular language. So context-free grammars or context-free languages are stronger, or we can say they have higher power, or you can say they have extra power than finite automata, or we can say regular language. And we know context-free languages are recognized by an automata which is called push down automata, which is also written as PDA. So push down automata have higher power, extra power than finite automata. So we have to discuss push down automata in detail. Just wait for that particular lecture. So we have extracted from here that context-free grammars have extra power than finite automata. And why is this extra power? Why they have this extra power? Context free grammars. Extra power is because of unbounded memory. So finite automatas, we know they have bounded memory. They have finite memory. So in context-free grammars, you can see that a non-terminal, if I have a non-terminal, this non-terminal can store unbounded information. So what does that mean? It can store unbounded information. It means that this non-terminal can generate infinite strings. Infinite strings. Okay. And because of the derivation of strings, they have it is said that they have unbounded memory, and because of this unbounded memory they have extra power than finite automatas. Okay, fine. So we have proved that all regular languages are context-free language, or we can say that regular language is a subset of context-free language, and they have the extra power as compared to finite automatas. And this extra power is because of the phenomena that they can generate unbounded, or we can say they can generate infinite strings. Okay, fine. So this completes the discussion about the context-free language. Okay, so the basic discussion about the context-free language. Now let's see what is the application. What are the applications of context-free language? So why we require context-free applications of context-free grammars, or we can say context-free language. So I will write only one or two examples. First is context-free grammars are used in the designing of compilers. Okay. So what does that mean? When we have a compiler, so what is the job of compiler? One job is that it will check for syntax errors. Okay. Second job is it will convert high level language to low level language, or we can say the machine language. So we don't have to discuss the second part. Let's come to the first part. So it checks the syntax. What does that mean? That if I have a programming language, let's suppose I am writing some statement in that programming language statement. Okay. So basically statement is a string. Now syntax errors means that compiler will check whether this statement is correct or not. So that means it has to check whether this string is correct or not. What compiler designers are doing, they are creating a context-free grammar for a compiler. Now you have a context-free grammar, okay, for a compiler. Now if you have a statement, or we can say a string, and you have to check whether this statement is correct or it has some incorrect, it has some syntax error. So it will see whether this statement can be generated using these rules of the compiler. If this statement can be generated, that means there are no errors in this statement. However, if this statement cannot be generated, then that means there are errors in this particular statement. There are some syntax errors. Okay. And how we can see whether this string can be generated using a context-free grammar? So in our compilers, there are parsers. So what is this parser doing? The job of parser is it will take this statement, and then it will see whether this statement can be generated using a context-free grammar for that particular compiler. Okay, so these parsers basically they take a statement and then using a context-free grammar, they will say whether this statement can be generated by a context-free grammar or not. If it can be generated by a context-free grammar, then that means this statement is correct. However, if it cannot be generated by a context-free grammar, that means this statement has some context errors. Oh, sorry, syntax errors. And these parsers, they are of two types. One is the top-down parser and another is bottom-up parser. And then top-down parser, it also has some classification, bottom-down has some classification, and this is not the this is out of the scope of this particular course, that is theory of computation. If you want to know more about the parsers, you have to take a course on compilers. Okay, in the compilers course, you will see how parsers are parsing a string and what are top-down parsers and what are bottom-down parsers. So one application of context-free grammars is that they are used for the designing of compilers. So whenever you have to design a compiler, you have to first design a context-free grammar for that compiler. The second is second application, natural language processing. So what is natural language processing? So natural language processing is mostly used in artificial intelligence. So what do you mean by an artificial intelligence? We can say that natural language processing, in simple terms, I am saying here that if I have a robot and now I want that robot or I want that machine to understand the natural language. For example, my natural language here currently is English. So if I want my machine to understand my natural language, okay, my machine should be able to understand the natural language. So I need some kind of artificial intelligence in that machine so that it can understand my language. Okay, or we can say it can understand the meaning of my language, what I am trying to say. Okay, that comes under the natural language processing. And if we have some natural language and if we are able to derive a context-free grammar for a language, then our machine can easily take a sentence. So it will take a sentence and then it will divide this sentence according to these rules. And by using these rules, it can understand not fully, but up to some we can say percentage, it can understand the meaning what I am trying to say. So in natural language processing, context-free grammars have an important objective. And the first, we can say the first aim, or we can say the first objective behind designing these grammars, the different types of grammars, was to make rules for natural language. So our motivation for designing grammars come from this understanding of natural language processing. And as we already know that Noam Chomsky was the first who was trying to derive the grammars for natural language. So let me write the name here, Noam Chomsky. So currently Noam Chomsky is a political figure. You can say that he is involved in politics and he has written many books, but his main objective was to derive, at the beginning, was to derive the grammars for natural language. So these are the two broad applications of context-free grammars. One is the compilers and second is the natural language processing. Fine. So with this, I will stop this particular video and the discussion about the context-free languages. And in our next lecture, we will discuss about the different types of, or we can say the classification of context-free grammars. So we will see how we can classify the context-free grammars. We will see the closure properties of context-free grammars. So we have already discussed closure properties of regular language. Likewise, we have to discuss closure properties of context-free language. Then we will also discuss decision problems for context-free language. So we have discussed the decision problems for regular language. Likewise, we have to discuss the decision problems for context-free language. We will also discuss simplification of context-free language, or we can say simplification of context-free grammars that we have to discuss. We will also discuss some normal context-free grammars, or we can say normal forms. We will also discuss the pumping lemma for context-free grammars. Context-free grammars. Okay. So, or we can say context-free language. What is pumping lemma? The pumping lemma will be used to prove a language is not context-free language. We will understand this pumping lemma, and we will also understand push down automata. So the push down automata has two types. Like our finite automata has two types. One is deterministic finite automata and another was non-deterministic finite automata. Likewise, push down automata, or we can say PDA, it also has two types. One is deterministic push down automata and another is non-deterministic push down automata. So these are the things that we have to discuss about the context-free language and push-down automatas, and that will complete our discussion about context-free grammars. Okay, so these things we will complete in next 2 or 3 lectures, and with that we will complete the discussion about the context-free grammars. So I will stop this video here. Let's meet in the next lecture where we will be discussing about the classification of context-free grammars and many other different topics. So let's meet in the next video. Till then, goodbye.